Hello there, and welcome to Dr. Teach Me to Parent. We're glad to have you. We're glad to have you today. Be part of our audience and be our guest and meet our guest, Nikki Campos, today. That's our very special guest today. Nikki is a student at Fresno Pacific University here in Fresno, and she has a very special message for us today to learn about disabled people. You have become kind of a advocate for the disabled people. You've been a coach for disabled people. You're a teacher for disabled people. You're a friend for disabled people. We're going to talk about that today as you kind of unfold your little personal story and the way that you relate to disabled people, and teach us, how we can relate to disabled people, and they can benefit from us and we can learn from them, and it's a mutual back and forth, right?
Definitely.
Okay, well, before we start today, I have a little quote that I want you to just kind of put into context. And it's on the screen there in front of you. Kindness is like snow. It beautifies everything it covers. Now, if you're from the Midwest and you're from the North, you know what that means. If you're from the South, that may be a little bit hard for you to understand. But snow is a beautifier. And that's what kindness is. It's a beautifier of relationships. It's a beautifier of people and what we learn from each other and how we interact with each other. And through kindness, much comes good. So that's what you've been doing, for a while. Now, one other thing before we start today, and that is this class of Dr. Teach Me to Parent is based upon my book, Dr. Teach Me to Parent. And there's a course that if you would like to take a course in parenting, or for some reason you need to take a course, maybe the court has ordered you to take a course in parenting, there's an online course called Parenting Better. And it's offered through Fresno Pacific University. And right there on that paper and on the screen in front of you is how you access the class of Parenting Better. So that's the number of the class, HBM040. And you can just access it. There at the bottom is the email address that you can use to do that. But if you need a class in parenting, this is a good one for you. You can do it over the course of a year. You do it online. You do it at your own leisure and fulfill it. And at the end of the year, you get a certificate that you have completed the course, and that make you feel good. Okay, now we're going to kind of pick up our little topic here with Nikki. And Nikki, you have been working with disabled people for how long?
I think it's been about 4 years now.
About 4 years.
Yeah.
And you came into it as kind of you didn't plan it.
No, I did
Somebody
not.
just kind of dropped the idea that maybe
Yeah.
you could help with some of the disabled people in a camp or something like that?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
So I was going to church at Sequoia Community Church, and someone who works for Young Life, she actually went to the church there. And she came up to me and was like, we're going to camp in about 2 weeks. I need like a buddy or a coach, someone who has a disability. Would you want to go? A group from Fresno is going.
Oh,
and I did not know this lady. I did not know anything about Young Life.
You didn't even know her?
No, I didn't even know her. And I had always had a gravitation for people with disabilities, like in school and like in classes when I would see them.
Right?
I'd always say hi to them. And so when she approached me with the idea, I was like, well, maybe this is something I could do. It's a Christian organization. It seemed like a good thing to do, something to try.
Sure.
So, with my parents willing to pay for it, I went, just not knowing anybody. And it was completely life-changing the way that I was not expecting that when I went to that camp.
That's interesting. You said something very important, that in school, and I gather this was high school, you had disabled students around you, and you befriended them.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
In my PE classes, we would have a couple kids who would come into our class, and they participate with us. And a lot of times, people would kind of not want them on their team to play for the sport that we were doing.
That's common, isn't it?
Very common.
They're kind of rejected
very
kids.
Standoffish.
Nobody wants them on their team.
Yeah, very standoffish about stuff. So me and my friends would always invite them to come play on our team.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how the love for them started to build and how I wanted to build friendships with them. But I never had thought that I would do that as like a career or pursue that. I just thought, it's something I just like to do, hang out with them.
Sure. But it opened up a whole new life for you.
Yeah, it definitely did.
You called it a life-changing experience in some way, but so apparently you changed your whole plans for the future?
Yeah, so I originally wanted to go into architecture and possibly go to Cal Poly. That was like the dream goal. And then I went to this camp my sophomore year going into my junior year, and liked it, and I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. And then I went back my junior to senior year, and I was getting ready to apply for college applications, and I went to this camp, and I was paired up with a girl who had cerebral palsy, and I was her buddy all week long, and I got to kind of just do life with her and experience the everyday struggles that she had. Got to hang out with her, and it made me realize maybe this is kind of a career that I want to go into. I thought maybe I could try to find I didn't want to be a teacher with special needs, but I thought maybe I could do something in that avenue to do that. And had I not gone to that camp, I never would have come across that.
That probably would never have happened. Huh?
Yeah, because I thought, well, I like architecture. That's something that's cool. But I wasn't really, hadn't really found my passion yet. And when I went to that camp, I discovered like what I really was passionate about. And so I remember the lady, Kristen, who had first asked me about going to this camp, I went back to her and I was like, what should I do? Like, I have this tug on my heart to go this direction, but I don't know. And she was like, well, let's explore some options and let's kind of figure out what you can go into for college. And that's kind of how it started. And it just changed everything of what I wanted, where I wanted to apply.
So from that time on, you kind of created a new direction to your life.
Yeah.
And it's been that way ever since.
Pretty much, yeah.
So you now continue to work with disabled, children or high school kids or?
High school kids.
Primarily high school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right now I'm not serving too much in that area just because college got a little hectic, but I definitely have been trying to volunteer in that.
So help me understand this. How do you define a disabled person? I mean, sometimes it's obvious.
Yeah.
You know, it's a physical disability. We can see it.
Yeah.
And we probably agree. Yeah, that's a disabled person. But there are times when somebody is disabled, but you can't see it. So how do you think in terms of a disabled person? How do you define it, so to speak?
Yeah, I think the best way for just anyone, no matter the age you are, whatever group you're in, I think the best way is to just go up to them as if they're just any other person. And then you can evaluate and kind of think, oh, like maybe they do have a disability, maybe they don't. Because I know I've seen a lot of people when they see someone like in a wheelchair or someone who just looks different or they talk different or they act different, they're just standoffish about it. And it's better just to, I think, go in with an open mind, not having any pre-assumptions about the person.
Yeah. So you really have to have a kind of an idea that this is a person. It's not a disabled person. It's a person to start with. You got to start with something.
Yeah.
So you start with a person who is disabled, but is a person.
Yeah.
And you relate to the person.
Yes. 100%.
Now, maybe there are certain things that the person can't hear, you got to speak up. The person can't see, you have to do that. The person can't walk, they're doing that, but it's still a person.
Yes. I think that's the biggest thing that people forget sometimes, that they're just people just like me and you. And I think they
have
just
feelings.
They have feelings,
joys,
emotions.
and they have sorrows, they have hurts, and yeah. So, do you have a particular type of disability that you feel more comfortable helping?
I think Down syndrome is the one I've experienced the most.
Is that right?
But I've also pretty comfortable with cerebral palsy now. I've experienced that from the spectrum of being in a wheelchair to being able to still walk. So I've experienced a wide variety of cerebral palsy and then Down syndrome as well.
Yeah. So a Down syndrome child, they're generally considered fun,
Definitely.
Pleasant, kids to be with. So why does that attract you? I mean, why is that?
I think
your attention?
That's the most common one that I've seen, like when I was in high school, and then even when I went the first year to camp, pretty much everyone in my cabin had Down syndrome. So that's the one that I've experienced the most.
I see, okay.
But they're also, I think, just the easiest to get along with, to talk
they are.
to, and hang out with.
Pleasant, yeah. But because you've had a lot of experience, you feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
And you're probably more helpful then.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And Down syndrome children, or even high school kids, I guess you can't call them kids anymore, children, but they're open, aren't they? They're receptive to friendship. They like friendship.
Yeah. I think if you just get past, I think some people will think, oh, they look different than us, but I think if you can get past that, they're actually really genuinely cool people, and I've met a lot of them that I actually would call a friend and just hang out with, to hang out with.
Do you think this is a true statement, though, that, I'm going to use it in an extreme, that all disabled people, first they're persons, but all of them want friendship?
Yes.
All of them want personal interaction. All of them want you to talk. All of them want you to approach. All of them want you to be interested. I mean, would that be a true statement, or would it be that they really don't want anybody in their life? They really want to be alone, separated.
No, I think that they do want the friendship and they do want the bond, because I've seen it firsthand how sometimes they'll be kind of sitting in the corner quiet, but when you approach them to talk to them,
Yes.
they want to talk to you. They're excited to hang out with you. They're excited to play with you. Yeah. So I think definitely they do want friendship. They do want someone who just look at them as a normal person and not see that.
Okay. Now, Nikki, you're at Fresno Pacific University, and you did this as a summer experience, and now you're studying, to become a person to work with disabled people. But you work through an organization known as Young Life.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. What's that all about?
Yeah, so Young Life is all over the country and even just the world in general. It's in a lot of different countries. And it's basically, they have middle school Young Life, which is called Wildlife, and then they have high school Young Life, and that's basically just a place where any kid can come and they can experience the gospel. And there's leaders, and then there's camps in the summertime that they can go to that are all over the states and all over the country and the world as well. And then there's also like Young Lives, which is for teen moms, that they have a branch for that. And then there's the branch that I volunteer in, which is Capernaum.
So Young Life is a Christian organization.
Yes.
Primarily on campuses.
Yeah.
But other places too.
Yeah, so leaders will go onto campus and meet kids and interact with them and even attend like football games and dances and stuff like that, but they meet off campus. So they have what's called club, which is kind of like a youth group, I guess you could say in a better term. They meet off campus and then they do hangouts and they just have fun together.
But they have a special program then for disabled students. I mean, that's where you come in.
Yeah.
I guess, and that is you work with that part of it. These are disabled students, I gather, all part of that Young Life program. What's that called?
So that's called Young Life Capernaum, and that's also on high school campuses. Not always, because it's kind of hard for people to find who want to volunteer in that area, but the whole goal is for them to eventually become a part of regular Young Life, even though there's a special branch for them. So that's basically, it's just a way for them to hear about Christ just as anybody else, because they have a right to know about it as well. So.
So then this is a weekly commitment on your part?
Yeah, so that's...
You work with them every week? I mean, this is...
Yeah, so right now I stepped away from all that just because of school, but it is normally like a weekly basis thing that you have to go to campus and hang out and meet with people and stuff like that. So. Yeah.
So if you were going to... tell our audience and parents, let's say, in our audience out there, and they had a disabled child. Let's say, okay, stay with high school age, because that's where you work. Could they then get their kid to become part of that program somehow? Could a parent make that happen? I mean, how does that?
Yeah, so a lot of times with kids with disabilities, you have to obviously be involved with the parents, and even just high school kids in general, you need to be involved with the parents. So I definitely, the kids will hear about it through school, but I definitely think that it's very valuable that as a leader for Young Life.
Right now, kids aren't going to school.
Yeah.
So they may not hear very much about it.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm asking, how does a parent, help their student, their high school kid?
I think the best way is just a leader needs to go to the parent. I don't think the parent always has to come to Young Life. I think that the leaders from Young Life should be able to go to the parents and present this like, hey, there's this thing called Young Life. We want to get your child involved in it. And I think just even Young Life just has come across a lot of high schools, and parents just kind of hear about it all the time, I think, too, because it's a pretty big organization.
I see. So on the screen is a website of Young Life. So a parent could just go to that website and make it known that I have a kid that's disabled. I want to get them into a program like that at school.
Yes.
How do I do it?
So that website kind of just gives you an overview of what Young Life is, all the camps that there are, a way to get connected with different people. Young Life is pretty much in every area, like school district kind of thing. They try to reach every area. So there's a good chance it's in your area. Maybe if you haven't heard about it, but it's probably there. But that website just gives you like just ways to give and ways to get involved and who to contact and different camps that there are. And
Okay. So let me ask you this question. If I'm a disabled person and I'm in a wheelchair and you meet me for the first time, very, very first time, and I'm at a high school age, how do you approach me? What do you want me to do?
yeah.
And what would you do? I mean, how would you get to know me as a disabled person?
I think the best way, from what my experience has been, I've just walked up and either gone for a handshake, a high five. I think high fives and fist bumps are the safest way to go with any kid with disabilities.
Some kind of a touch. Or,
yeah. And then just going up and being like, hey, my name is so-and-so. What's your name? And then you can go from there. I think that's just the safest way to just approach them, and that's the advice I could give anybody. Just introduce yourself, ask them what their name is, how's their day going, and then get to know them.
So you have a name. So use the name. Sorry, you have a name, they have a name,
Yeah.
I have a name, you have a name. So we start with names.
Yeah.
Start with a hi, and then we then go to a name, and then you go to a little conversation that you said.
Yeah.
What was your day like, or?
Yeah, even just if you catch them if they're like doing an activity or something, ask them about their activity, or if they're, playing a game or something, ask them about that, or if you see they're wearing cool shoes, compliment their shoes. I mean, stuff like that just to get them kind of comfortable with you and to know you.
Yeah. But how do you help me as a disabled person not get stuck in loneliness, in isolation, in withdrawal? How do you help me come out of that and be more willing to talk or willing to look at you in the eye and talk?
Yeah, so a lot of times when you come across them, they do keep their eyes down,
Yeah,
or they're
right,
really then kind of standoffish to you. I think one of the greatest freedoms that we have with them is to be ourselves completely and to be goofy, to be fun, because they laugh at you. They think it's funny when you're dancing like you're dumb or something, and you're just, and they react to that. And I think that if you feel comfortable enough to just be yourself and be goofy and have fun, then they'll see that, and then they'll want to join you in that fun. So I think that's just the best way, just to be yourself and kind of let loose, and they'll react to that very well.
There's a tendency, Nikki, to think of a disabled person as being younger than they really are.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a high school disabled person. I may appear or look like or give the impression that I may be a junior high school. How do you get over that? How do you help?
I think you just have to realize that they are still your age. Even though they may act different, they may dress different, they may dress like they're younger than you, they are your age, and they do, they still have those feelings that you do, even if they're not like the same way as you are. And I think like I have a friend, Zach, who has Down syndrome, and he's 21. He's older than me, actually.
Sure, yeah.
But he acts his age. Like, he's very mature about himself. And I think if you just give them that benefit of the doubt that they are that age, and you go in with that mentality, then you can, I think, experience them differently than you would if you kind of downplayed them.
I see. We started out with that little quote about kindness. I gather that's a big factor.
Yes.
If you approach a disabled person and appear to be kind, that should help.
Yeah, I think kindness and then just open-mindedness are the two biggest things you can do when you approach someone who has a disability. Yeah.
So not be afraid, but be kind.
Yeah.
And just talk.
Yeah.
Just relate. Just socialize. Just get to know them.
Yeah. I think going in, just being yourself and being kind to them, I think goes a long way for them. Because they probably experience people walking away from them, looking at them differently, and I think you just being a kind person and saying hello and acknowledging them goes a long way in their mind. Whether you think it or not, it does, because they understand and they know. So I think going up and giving them a fist bump and saying hi and just being a genuinely kind person.
Here's one of the problems that I have. If I meet somebody in a wheelchair, and I'm standing up, okay? I'm much taller, and they're down there. What do? Do I continue to stand up, or do I get down on my knees and kind of try to be eye to eye?
I like the eye to eye. I always squat down.
You squat down.
I start off standing up and say hi, how's it going? I kind of,
You
approach
start that
them.
way.
Yeah, I start that way, and then when I have a conversation with them, I like to get at eye level because it's good to see their eyes, and then they can see yours, and they don't feel like you're taller than them or you're bigger
That's what
than
I'm wondering.
them.
That'd be like over towering.
Yeah.
I mean,
I always like to get down to eye level with them. I just think it's nice because when we talk to somebody, you're at eye level regardless. So I think they deserve the same thing that someone else would get.
what about a smile? What about just being friendly, being pleasant? I mean, is that very important?
Yeah, I think an example for that would be like I've come across going in stores and I see people have disabilities and they're with their parents and I smile at them. I say hi, I wave.
Sure, sure.
And a lot of parents look
And
at
you
me.
have a nice smile too, by
Yeah,
the way. So
thank you.
It helps.
A lot of parents will look at me like, "Why are you waving at my child?" But I think they deserve that. They're just like anybody else, and it's you when you pass by someone in the store, you kind of give them a little smile, you nod your head at them, and I think that you do the same thing for them too. And so a lot of parents are kind of like, "Oh, why are you smiling? Why are you saying hi?" But I've always done that.
But there is that tendency to see somebody disabled as being fragile. You don't want to be loud.
Yeah.
You don't want to maybe be too firm. If you shake a hand, you don't want to be.
Yeah.
There's kind of that sense that be afraid of them.
Yeah, I think it is hard because sometimes you see them and you think, oh yeah, they are a little fragile, or maybe they're sensitive to hearing.
Yeah.
But I think once you get to know them for a few minutes, you kind of can figure out, okay, they don't like loud things, or they don't like certain stuff, or you can kind of get a feeling for who they are and what they do or don't like. And I think that's when you can kind of figure out how to approach the situation.
Yeah, yeah. So actually, you take the initiative. Is that what you're saying? You don't wait for a disabled person to say hello to you.
Yeah.
Although it's possible.
It is. Yeah, it is.
But for you to just go ahead and take the initiative, is that the idea?
Yeah.
You should be first.
That's the approach that I've always learned and taken. And don't get me wrong, some people they will approach you sometimes too. But I do think it goes a long way when you approach them first.
Yeah, yeah. So what would you consider to be the most basic need of a person who's disabled, whether in a wheelchair or they're on crutches or they're hearing loss or vision? Well, what do they need? What's the most basic need that they have?
I think just friendship.
Friendship.
Just
Connection.
Connection with people.
Association.
Yeah. Just a group they can get plugged into, just that community, I guess I would say. That's probably the best way that they can feel welcomed and included and feel loved.
And that's your job. I mean, your job is to convey that love or that interest in them, and you do it.
Yeah, I think through Young Life, the biggest thing with Young Life is the friendship with them and building the bond with them, and then after that comes the part about showing them about Christ and explaining them who Christ is.
Yeah.
So friendship is a really big thing when you meet a kid with a disability, or just any child in Young Life.
I've read and I've heard that disabled people of all forms, of all kinds, have this fear that they are the rejected one, that nobody really wants to include them, even if you say hi. Even if you say, hello, my name is, even if you do that, there's still that idea that you're rejecting me and you're going to reject me.
Yeah.
And I'm a rejected person. How do you overcome that? I mean, that's a deep idea, feeling, that I'm sure every disabled person has. I'm the rejected one. I don't get included in games. I don't get chosen for the team, or I don't get part of a group. I'm the last one to be chosen. You go over there.
Yeah, and that does happen to them. And I think a challenge just to every person would be, don't let them feel that way. Don't let them be in that corner. I think we tend to be afraid to approach them, but there really is no need to be afraid. At the end of the day, they're probably the nicest person you might come across in your life. And I think if we, on our part, if we try to help them and be kind to them and just approach them, it might get them to overcome that feeling of being rejected or being the kid in the corner who doesn't get picked.
Yeah, good. You said that you're at Fresno Pacific University. You're studying occupational therapy and kinesiology. study of muscles and coordination. Okay. How is that going to help you? I mean, why would you choose a major like that if you're going to work with disabled people?
Yeah. So a lot of times, like my program is kinesiology pre-OT. So it's a pre-occupational therapy program, but the main major is kinesiology. So it's when you're in occupational therapy, you work with fine motor skills. So it is very important to learn the muscles and the bones and the anatomy of the body and how the brain works and how things connect together in order to help someone who has a disability when you're working in that field.
So that's why you're doing this.
Yeah.
So this is really a very unique training.
Yeah.
That you're going to use
for the rest of my life,
in
probably my career. Yeah.
To understand why people move the way they move or can't move in a certain way or are limited in their movements.
Yeah, and even though I'm in kinesiology, I've taken a lot of psychology classes as part of my major, and a lot of them, deal with why, I had a whole class, like a whole section about kids with disabilities and how their brain functions and how they're wired and how they think and how their body just functions differently than a normal person would. And that's important to know as well, because even though we view them as just like me and you, we still need to know the way they operate and the way that they're wired in their body.
Sure, yeah. I'm a psychologist, and I tell a lot of young people, occupational therapy, physical therapy is a very good field, to be in. So let me just ask you this question. Are we seeing more disabled people today than we did 10 years ago when you were in elementary school? Are the numbers increasing? Are we getting more disabled today than ever? Or is it about the same number?
I think it's about the same. I remember in elementary school, I always saw the class of special ed walk by down the hallway. So I don't think it's changed. I think maybe more awareness has come about it recently. A little more of the inclusiveness about it has become more of a popularity thing right now on like topics and stuff. Just being the whole inclusive, keeping them included in everything that a normal person would be a part of has, I think, become more about the world right now.
So let me ask you this question. Today and age, we have more drug usage. We have cities, we have states that have voted to bring drugs into the city and make it available. And more and more young people, kids down to age 12, by the way, are using drugs. Will that create more disability? Are we going to see more brain damage? Are we going to see more impairments of learning and physical impairments as a result of this drug usage that is now being promoted by our city governments?
Yeah, I would say because when the mom's pregnant, if they're doing drugs, it's gonna affect the baby to some degree. So if that is becoming more legal and becoming more of an open thing in society, it will affect children later on.
Yeah, we have this thing we call fetal alcohol syndrome, which is when a child is in the womb and the mother is drinking alcohol. But now she's not drinking alcohol only. She's using marijuana. She's using other kind of drugs. So now we have kind of this fetal drug syndrome.
Yeah.
And these kids have learning problems. They have vision problems. They have coordination problems.
Yeah.
We're seeing more of that, you think?
I think so. I think especially within the next, probably 10 years, we will see more of it because marijuana and drinking have become a more popular thing, I think, especially marijuana has become a popular thing. And if a parent is, mother is doing that while they're pregnant, it's going to show down the line, I think, so.
Exactly. So in a sense, you might predict that you're going to have more disability in the future. And maybe we're already seeing that. I think there's some indication that we have a little bit more today. Maybe not a major amount, but a little bit more today than we did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think 10 years from now,
we're
going to see a huge increase in the disabled population of all kinds.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's going to be learning disability. A lot of it's going to be visual, disability and the sensories.
Yeah.
And you're going to have a job forever.
Definitely.
It's a good thing for you, but it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
For our community and for our kids and for our young people that, are using medications like that, or drugs and overusing them, and therefore they're going to be disabled kids.
Yeah. It's I mean, it's kind of sad, honestly. I think it kind of hurts my heart because it's like I don't think a child deserves to have a life like that if they can have a normal one. But I definitely do think it probably will turn that way eventually.
That's true, yeah. Hey, we're going to take a break.
Okay.
Give you a break here for a minute. When I come back, I'm going to ask you this question about you as a college student, and you're going to become a parent one of these days. What do you recommend to parents? You know, that they have a disabled child, mild disability, major disability. What do you recommend to parents? What do they read, or what do they do to kind of prepare themselves or train themselves so that they're a good parent to a disabled child? I mean, parents want to be good parents, but it's hard to be a good parent to a disabled child. And what's your advice? We're going to come back and talk about that, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. Get a cup of coffee and we'll see you in a minute.
The Green Gables Care Home is a 24-hour assisted living facility for the elderly located in Clovis, California, offering spacious private and semi-private rooms which are wheelchair approved, catering to the special person in your life who needs attention and wants to live in a loving home environment. The Green Gables Care Home has assisted living in secured homes for elderly with Alzheimer's, memory loss, and for your loved ones needing assistance with their activities of daily living. Call 559-297-9438 and visit greengablescarehome.com.
Sometimes good intentions hurt rather than help. For just $1.76 per meal, the Fresno Rescue Mission offers more than food. We offer hope. Please donate today.
Do you need a locksmith? Layman's Lock and Safe Service and Repair is available for you. 559-228-1805.
Gained a lot, learned a lot, and got a lot of love. If it weren't for the knowledge that I had gained from the classes at PCC, I probably wouldn't be the mom I am today. See, there it goes.
I would love you to meet my son, Aaron. My situation was very difficult. I didn't know how my life was going to turn out.
We graduated in June 2010, and we got married in July. And through family, the Pregnancy Care Center changed our lives.
The Pregnancy Care Center was a huge, vital part in helping me walk through that pregnancy, in educating me and loving on me during that time.
Choosing a Medicare plan can be difficult and frustrating. Susan Hatch can guide you through the Medicare maze and help find the right plan for you. Susan helps people understand the confusing and drastic changes that occur every year in Medicare. Susan will only recommend plans that will protect your assets and allow you to continue to see your personal doctor. As a 100% independent agent, Susan is not controlled by any particular insurance company to steer a person onto any one particular plan. Susan was awarded the #1 Medicare supplement agent in California. Look for Susan's Medicare question and answers every Monday in the Fresno Bee. Call Susan at 559-307-2287 and visit MedicareToday.net.
When I set foot on the campus to come visit it, I was struck by how open and how welcoming the students and the professors were. Coming to Gordon was like coming home.
I think intentional community is what Jesus modeled with his disciples, and Gordon has really fostered a good place for intentional community to happen.
Gordon is a place where you can meet people from all over the world and hear their stories. I meet a lot of different people who are shaping who I am today.
Gordon seeks to graduate men and women of character and of leadership, and the world is the place where Gordon students belong.
Choosing to go to Gordon was, I think, one of the best decisions I've made in my life. Expect to be changed.
The in-house services we offer here at Total Life Change: anger management, one-on-one biblical counseling. We do a marriage enrichment, codependency and chemical dependency one-on-one counseling. We have a relapse prevention piece. We also do a lot of workshops where we inform and educate people on different topics. There is one-on-one individual sessions, and we also have group therapy that we work in a group. We find that can be so advantageous when you know you're not alone. The key is to call, email, online, and get a hold of one of the receptionists here, and we will do an assessment. We are not here to direct, guide, and force. We're here to meet you where you're at, then direct, then guide, and then give you options to break free.
All right, welcome back, and I hope you had your cup of coffee or you have it with you now. So we pick up this next part here of our discussion with Nikki Campos, who has been a student at Fresno Pacific University, became involved with some disabled children, and changed her career, and changed her life, actually, and now is in school studying occupational therapy with a goal towards being a therapist or a counselor or working with disabled people in some way. And a great career, by the way. I think anybody, if you're out there and you're looking for a career and you are in this field of people field, occupational therapy is an excellent field to be in. I commend you for doing it. It's because I think right now we have a lot of people who need occupational therapy as physical therapy. And I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to have more kids. So there's a great need. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking for a field of study, I recommend that to you, and use you as an example, of that. Now, look, we've been talking about disability, and we're talking about disabled kids, high school kids primarily, because that's the group that you kind of been working with. So tell me about a parent in a home. There's a disabled child, maybe 2 children that are disabled. Maybe they work with disabled kids and they have like a group home of 2 or 3 or 4 of them. What do they do? I mean, what, other than just take care of them, mm-hmm. What's the thing that you want to teach a disabled person? And that makes you a good parent if you do that.
I think as a parent, you have to know, like, you're not alone. There's other people who have passions for your children who have disabilities, and that there's resources out there that you can get connected with. I think, Young Life is one example of that, the Capernaum side of it, to get your child involved in that. But I also think teaching them, life skills and learning to be independent is another big thing that a parent can do. I know when I work with Zach, I teach him how to cook on a weekly basis. We cook together, and I'm teaching him how to, we go to the store and do self-checkout, use your credit card to pay, and teaching him life skills like that. I think that's an important thing that parents can teach children, especially when they get to that college age group where they're like 18 and over, like they can start learning to become independent, and also realizing that they don't have to do it all by themselves, that they can find a high school or college student who wants to hang out with their child and teach them these skills, and that's another really valuable source to remember.
So the idea of teaching independence is a big thing then.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Because I think there's a tendency to see a disabled person not being able to do anything.
Yeah.
And then don't teach them anything. So they still can't do anything.
Yeah, and actually, they are very capable of things. I mean, when I cook with Zach, I just stand back and I tell him, this is kind of what you should do, and he cuts the vegetables and he cooks the meat, and so he's learning how to do these things, and they are capable of it. And I think, if parents could start to realize and understand that their child can be somewhat independent to a degree and live on their own, maybe one day, hopefully, they can kind of find resources to help them with that.
Yeah. So a parent wants to protect the disabled child, but a parent has to overcome that.
Yes.
It's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Of course you want to protect the child, but you have to overcome that and be able to say, you need to put that kid in a situation where they can experience life.
Yeah.
And experience failure, experience successes, experience good people, experience crabby people. You have to learn how to deal with that. That's life.
Yeah, I know. As hard as it might be, to let them go and to let them, go to a camp like Young Life, as hard as it is for them to send them off somewhere for a whole week, it is good for the child to experience that. It is good for them to get a sense of being on their own a little bit and having to figure things out. And then knowing also that they're in good hands wherever they go, I think is also a big part of it. And I think building a bond with them too, for me, I've built a bond with Zach's parents. That way I have the ability to go hang out with him and they're more comfortable with the idea of it.
Yeah.
So
I always tell parents, make sure you take your kid on the bus. You got to learn how to get around on a bus, not just the handy helper bus, but the big buses that go up and down the streets. I mean, because that's their life. Someday they're going to need to ride a bus.
Yeah.
So you have to learn to be comfortable in that kind of situation. And
Yeah.
There must be a lot of those kind of things that maybe a parent wouldn't necessarily do.
Yeah, I mean, even simple things like teaching them how to put their alarm clock on to wake up on their own time.
Oh, yes, okay. That's good.
Stuff like that. I mean, taking them to the store and having them pick the groceries out with you is another good thing. I think just simple things to get them to not just be at home all day and be by themselves. I think to get the interaction with people and to just kind of do life how a normal person would do life, I think is good for them.
I mean, I gather the rule is that if I have a 16-year-old kid, whether he's disabled or not, I want him to be independent. I want him to help.
Yeah.
I want him to be thinking about how to be helpful to somebody else. I mean.
Yeah, and I think if they gain that independence at a younger age, by the time they get to that college group, they can maybe potentially even have a job. I know the Vaughns close to my house, a lot of people with disabilities work there, and they're the baggers, or they take the bags outside to the cars. They're making money and they have their own debit card. And I think if you train them at a younger age to be independent, they can get to that point.
So financial independence is kind of the idea. I didn't think about that, but that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a disabled kid, of course, would want money.
Yeah.
I mean, what kid wouldn't, right? So it's the same. So make sure they get allowance. If you give a kid allowance over here, you'd give the kid the allowance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So learning how to spend money and how to give a storekeeper the money and buy things.
Teaching them just those basic life skills, I think will go a long way with them, and that'll get them to be more independent as well.
And that's the parent's job.
Yeah, definitely the parent's job. I mean, I think you can have people along the way help you, but if the parent pushes for that, it'll go a long way in the child's life.
But is that something you would do as a occupational therapist, let's say? To help a child go to the store and exchange money and buy something?
Yeah.
Or
I think as occupational therapy, for me, I want them to learn simple things like being able to tie their shoes. Sometimes they have a hard time with their hands. So being able to even just tie their shoes, zip up a sweater, write their name, learning how to, sign their name on a paper, stuff like that are good things that they should learn as well. And I think as an occupational therapist, I could help with that.
what are some of the other things? That's good. You got a good list going. I mean, so as an occupational therapist, you want to make sure a child can use whatever limbs and whatever movements he can have and make it work for him.
Yeah, that's kind of the main goal. Those fine motor skills that we were able to do, like opening a water bottle, opening your door to your, like using the key to open your house door is another good thing to teach them. And I think sometimes with their hands they can't do that, but if we train them with occupational therapy and we help them learn that, they can gain some more independence by doing stuff like that.
But can't you just see the frustration of a parent? I can open that key and get the door and written just like that. If I have my disabled child do it, it's going to take 3 minutes.
And I think that's just where patience is a big thing, and just being gracious and having compassion on them, and just being willing to be kind and just relax and breathe and realize that it's going to take them a little bit longer, but they can achieve that goal if you give them the ability to do that.
Yeah. Let me ask you a different question altogether. I've often heard this, that disability is like a punishment. You're punishing a parent through the child, or some way you're creating a punishment to a family by having a disabled child in that family. Help me think that through. Is there any truth to that?
Personally, I would say no.
Well, speak personally. That's right.
I think that they're actually some of the greatest gifts that God puts on the earth, to be honest with you. If I hadn't met someone who had a disability, I never would have come across the career path. I never would have experienced that life-changing moment that I had to switch what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I think sometimes it can be hard, I understand, because I know when I did that camp, I had to help bathe the girl with cerebral palsy. I had to feed her. So I know it's hard for parents, but I do think that they are some of the greatest blessings on earth.
Interesting question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think a lot of people think that way, but there are people that do think that way. Somehow or other, this is like a curse or some kind of a punishment that I earned or I deserve in some kind of way.
Yeah.
Like God's punishing me that way. You don't believe in that?
I don't. I know I've struggled with, why would God do that to a person, but I've never felt that it's like a punishment or a curse on someone like that.
You said it early. It's just a person. And that person blossoms and becomes something over time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But, kids that are disabled have a unique social relationship problem. Even like you were talking earlier, you say hi, but it's difficult to get two people, together socially that will continue. Not just once, not twice, but go on in a relationship.
Yeah.
And have some way of having social connection. How do you bring that about? How does a parent help their child become socially connected?
Yeah, I think simple things like taking your child to a football game, like a high school football game. I know I saw a lot of parents who would bring their kids, and then the kids would go and sit in the student section, and they would hang out with normal high school students. So I think interaction like that. I know at my church, I've seen parents who have brought kids with disabilities to services, and that's another good way to meet people. Just taking them with you to the grocery store or to Walmart or something. And then, organizations like Young Life are another way they can get involved too. I think just I think if a parent secludes the child, then the child will feel rejected. I think that it's also the parent's job to get them out there and to expose them to different things and help them meet new people.
Yeah. I've often told parents to have a birthday party every week. Invite 2 or 3 friends and have a birthday party every month or every... You don't have to have one birthday party.
Yeah.
You can have all kinds of them. But get kids together. That's what we need parents to do.
Yeah, I think if parents help expose the child to different social events and just having people come over and meet different people, it'll help them to socialize better and not be so standoffish when they meet somebody new. And it might even gain them the confidence to approach you instead of you approaching them if they're around a lot of people.
Yeah. There's this need, if you have a disabled child in your home, to modify your home. You have to make doors bigger. You have to have different arrangements for rooms. What do you tell parents about that? How do you get a parent to make that home workable?
Yeah, it is hard, especially someone's in a wheelchair. It is hard to make accommodations to that. But I think if you are able to do that and give the child the best life that you can by making accommodations in your home, it'll make their life easier and maybe even the parents' life easier, I think, in general. And then I think just the parents doing research and finding out who they can contact to figure that, to find, I mean, like, there is someone else in this world who has experienced what you're going through also as a parent. So I think finding someone else who you can connect with to help you go through that as well is good.
So this whole idea, it's in the parent's hand, isn't it? A disabled child, young child, high school student, even a college student for that matter, is kind of dependent upon a parent being wise, a parent being creative, you know, a parent being to initiate and to expose to new ideas. It's really a parent challenge.
Yeah, I know it's a lot of work for a parent. I have seen it firsthand with some people, but I know that the parents who have put the time in to do that and to find the resources for their child and to find different groups and be a part of and get them involved. It's made a difference in their lives for sure.
Yeah, but that's the challenge that a parent has. I mean, who supports parents? Who tells the parent they're doing a good job? Everybody telling them what to do.
Yeah.
Who comes in back of them and says, you're doing a good job, keep it up?
Yeah. I think
is that your job as an occupational therapist? To support the family, support, praise and approve and affirm.
Definitely that, like the people that you're around and then your family too. Just having a big support system, I think, as a parent is a big thing. Because I mean, in general, it doesn't take two parents to raise a child. It takes an army of people to raise a child. So that's the same thing for child disabilities. I mean, when we have a normal child, you take them to sports events, to games, to practices. I mean, so with your child disability, take them to things that'll help them. Maybe it's not a sports event, but it's something that could help them instead. It's the same way. I think the parents have to put their best foot forward as well with their child.
Yeah. Hey, you've been a great guest today. You've really educated it. I learned some good stuff from you. And I'm glad that you're able to just share your heart, but also share your knowledge and share your experience. I mean, you're going to have a good career. You're going to have a good future. You're going to be in a very unique place at a good time in life, in the lives of a lot of people. But let me give you a quote here at the end. You may want to even comment on this, okay? There's a quote that I think it's an important one to put in perspective. Compassion. Now, earlier we talked about kindness, but now compassion offers whatever is necessary to heal the hurts of others. You got to be a compassionate person.
Yeah, I think compassion is a really good trait to have in a person. I think just going through life being compassionate and, like you said, being kind, it goes a long way, whether you think it or not. Those two things will really go a long way for people.
Yeah. I think you got to be kind, and I think you have to be compassionate. And if you have those two skills, you're going to do well working with people who are disabled.
Yeah, definitely.
With anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, we all like people who are kind and compassionate, but especially a disabled person that depends upon kindness and depends upon other people's compassion. And you have it. So I'm glad you're doing that. Okay, before we end, let me again just remind you that if you need a parenting class, or you'd like to take a parenting class, or maybe you should take a parenting class, here's one online that you can take from Fresno Pacific University. It's based on my book, Dr. Teach Me to Parent, and it's referred to as Parenting Better. So I recommend the course to you. It's online. You can take it at your leisure, take it over a period of time, but you'll learn some very good parenting skills by a course like that. So I recommend it to you. And thank you for being our guest today. You were very good and very helpful and very practical, and the best to you as you pick up this career now in occupational therapy and working with disabled people. And remember, if you have interest in Young Life as an organization working with not just disabled kids, but all kids of all ages in all school situations, contact younglife.org. Read about it. Read about what the organization is. Learn about it. And you may want to make a contribution. They depend upon the donations of people, by the way. So here's a place for you to send a donation. So check it out, will you? I recommend it to you. Bye for now.
When you need a dentist who has a passion for superior aesthetics and comfort, you need Dr. Christopher Wong with Cedar North Dental. Call 559-432-4948 or visit cedarnorthdental.com.
Hey!
Try to close the club.
Tanya, come here.
At Boys and Girls Clubs, it's not just about trying new things.
Kitchen in my hometown.
It's not about learning the right steps
4,
or making contact.
5, 6, 7, 8.
It's not about exploring the future. It's about helping them build it. It's about taking steps to greatness. About making a connection. It's about proving every kid and teen has what it takes. It's about people in our clubs who bring out the greatness in every kid who enters our doors. It's not just about being on stage. It's about walking across it. Great futures start here, and here, and here.
Sat7 is a Christian media network that uses uncensored satellite television to broadcast across the Middle East and North Africa, and is also available globally online.